Days after a landmark decision to let non-locals vote in J&K, opposition targets centre. PDP accuses BJP of importing voters. National Conference says it will resist the move. BJP Congress furious. Tipu versus Savarkar war in Karnataka escalates. Congress threatens to paste Tipu Sultan posters at a BJP office in a tit-for-tat. BJP workers put up Savarkar posters at the Congress office. Qualified candidates for teaching hit the streets of Patna in anger over unemployment. Video of an ADM thrashing youth in the stir goes viral. BR government assures action. Violence and ruckus at JNU campus as students and administration clash. Students allege their scholarships have been stalled for over 2 years. Flood fury across large parts of eastern and northern India. UP, Odisha, Himachal battle the deluge due to incessant rain. Roads submerged, homes and vehicles swept away. Thousands have been displaced. Supreme Court defers All India Football Federation elections by a week, directs a change in electoral college and dissolves the Committee of Administrations. This comes days after FIFA suspended AIFF. Pakistan police charge ousted Prime Minister Imran Khan under the Terrorism Act. Imran applies for pre-arrest bail. His supporters hit the streets in anger. But first tonight, it's being seen as the latest political battle in the country. Days after the CBI raided Delhi's Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia, that excise policy scam showdown is heating up as the fire spreads from Delhi to poll-bound Gujarat. Manish Sisodia and Arvind Kejriwal were in Gujarat today campaigning for AAP. Manish Sisodia, who was named in the CBI FR, made a sensational allegation claiming that the BJP had asked him to split AAP and become the chief minister to prevent a CBI investigation. The BJP rejects the charge as a figment of imagination and claims the AAP is running away from the serious corruption charges leveled by the CBI. Why is this excise scam now becoming, in a sense, a prelude to what many believe could be a political showdown in the months ahead? BJP versus AAP. Take a look.
ऐसे व्यक्ति को तो भारत रत्न मिलना चाहिए.
मैं एक ईमानदार आदमी हूँ. इनफैक्ट मैं अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की टीम में हूँ ही इसलिए कि मैं एक कट्टर ईमानदार आदमी हूँ.
The CBI raid on Manish Sisodia over the Delhi liquor policy has hit the Aam Aadmi Party where it hurts it the most. A party formed as a crusade against corruption now stands accused of the same grime and filth it had set out to clean. Aam Aadmi Party, cornered by its rivals, is now taking the fight to the BJP.
दो मैसेज थे, दो पार्ट थे उस मैसेज के कि एक तो आपके खिलाफ जितने ईडी के सीबीआई के केस चल रहे हैं इनको सबको खत्म कर दिया जाएगा, और दूसरा है कि आप बीजेपी ज्वाइन करके पार्टी तोड़ के बीजेपी ज्वाइन कर लीजिए और हम आपको सीएम बना देंगे, क्योंकि हमारे पास में कोई सीएम कैंडिडेट नहीं है.
Aam Aadmi Party's strategy seems to be 1. Play the victim card and earn sympathy, and 2. Discredit the investigation against the Delhi Deputy CM. The party is also pitching Kejriwal for the mother of all battles against Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2024. Aam Aadmi Party's top leaders on Monday dropped enough hints of this at a press meet in Gujarat, where they are campaigning for the state elections.
मैं यहां राजनीति में सीएम बनने के ख्वाब लेके नहीं आया. मैं जो ख्वाब लेके आया हूं वो ये है कि दिल्ली के हर बच्चे को शानदार एजुकेशन मिले, और मैं जानता हूं कि ये सपना अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ही पूरा कर सकते हैं. इस देश में कोई और नेता नहीं है जो देश की एजुकेशन को वहां ले जा सकता हो जहां से हमारे देश के हर बच्चे को शानदार एजुकेशन मिले.
जैसा मनीष जी ने कहा, ये सीएम बनने नहीं आए और मैं भी पीएम बनने नहीं आया. मेरा एक ही सपना है, भारत को दुनिया का नंबर 1 देश देखना है. वो नेता और पार्टियां नहीं कर सकते. आप सब लोगों के साथ मिलके 130 करोड़ लोगों को एक साथ मिला के और इस देश को नंबर 1 बनाएंगे।
The BJP has hit back, rubbishing Aam Aadmi Party's charges.
जिनकी नीयत खोटी है, सोच छोटी है, उनको कोई क्या तोड़ेगा? आपका अहंकार तो दिल्ली की जनता तोड़ रही है।
The CBI investigation into the alleged liquor scam in Delhi has pushed Arvind Kejriwal and his party on the back foot.
हमारे देश के सबसे गरीब
It threatens to jeopardize Aam Aadmi Party's national mission. Kejriwal is banking on his Delhi model of health and education welfare schemes to pull him through the political crisis.
सब लोग जुड़ो।
With Saurabh Bakhtania, Bureau Report, India Today.
एक सुनहरा गुजरात बनाते हैं, आपके रोजगार का भी इंतजाम करेंगे।
So there you have it. Arvind Kejriwal now hitting the campaign trail in Gujarat. The gloves are off. The big question, has the Aam Aadmi Party though lost its anti-corruption halo as a result of these CBI raids? Is Modi versus Kejriwal, as Manish Sisodia claims, really possible in 2024, or is that a pipe dream? Is AAP playing a victim card after what's happened? Is the BJP wary of Arvind Kejriwal? And is the Congress unwilling to back the Aam Aadmi Party in its fight against the BJP after the CBI raid? Joining me now, Shehzad Poonawala, the BJP's energetic young spokesperson. Ajoy Kumar, Congress spokesperson, was once with the Aam Aadmi Party. And Jasmine Shah is AAP spokesperson and someone who's been in charge of the Delhi Development Council. Thank you all very much for joining us. Shehzad Poonawala, to you first. We have seen in the last 3 days dozens of BJP press conferences from the likes of Anurag Thakur to Sambit Patra to you yourself. At every level, the BJP is targeting AAP on an hourly basis. Has Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal got under your skin? Because he is claiming it's going to be Modi versus Kejriwal in 2024.
It's going to be Kejriwal versus honesty, Kejriwal versus propriety, Kejriwal versus integrity, and perhaps even Kejriwal versus Nota in 2024. Because Rajdeep, out of the 554 election seats that they contested in 2020 onwards, discounting Delhi and Punjab where they've contested earlier, they've lost their deposits on all but 2. They have an average vote share of 0.7%, and they lost 403 seats in Uttar Pradesh. They lost 67 out of 70 seats in Uttarakhand. They lost Maharashtra. They lost Haryana. They lost 2019 elections. They got less than Nota in all these elections. So I think Kejriwal versus Nota would be the better way to describe it. But today it's not about Kejriwal versus who or Kejriwal versus Nota. It's about Kejriwal, who used to say first resignation, then investigation in his IAC days, today defends all kinds of corruption and gives protection despite court observation and interrogation. Look, here are the 3 orders of the courts against Satyendra Jain. The High Court says he has a criminal background. The High Court in 2019 said that he was doing Hawala Bazi, and the trial court, here are the reports, says that the charge sheet should be taken cognizance of because he has indulged in Hawala transactions. Yet Mr. Kejriwal comes and says kattar imandar hai, isko to Padma Bhushan dena chahiye. And today he declared Bharat Ratna for Manish Sisodia. They should get a Bhrashtachar ka Ratna, because for the last 25,92,000 seconds we have been asking them 15 questions on liquor policy, and by the end of this show, that's another 3,600 seconds. Rajdeep, I assure you, not a single question on the liquor scam will be answered. The first question is that why did you allow manufacturing and blacklisted companies like Khau Gali, on whom you issued show cause notices, to come there, and what action did you take on them? Zero. What action did you take on the fact that EMD of 30 crores was actually refunded to a company illegally? What action did you take on the fact that 144 crores was waived off illegally? How did you increase the operational period of licenses illegally? Why did you go against the cabinet decision that Mr. Sisodia was not empowered to take decisions, and still Mr. Sisodia went ahead and took those decisions? Why did you increase the number of vans from 2 per mohalla to more than 2? Why did you allow these tekas to open up next to Mandir Masjid, which was in violation of the master plan of Delhi? Why did you make so many violations, like giving a 50 rupee discount per crate of international imported liquor, which was against the violation of the rules? Why did you allow Brindco, company like Brindco? Please ask them, who is Amandeep Dhal? He gets L1 in Delhi also, he gets L1 in Punjab also. Please ask him, who is Vijay Nair? I'm sure you also know who Vijay Nair is. I don't want to open my mouth too much about him. Who is Mr. Dinesh Arora, who was being patronized by Manish Sisodia? What was his role? Why was he given the licenses of Mahavir distilleries? Why was a liquor factory in Punjab which was shut down in Pathankot Court opened up for a sum of 4.5
You are
crores. There are
asking,
several
you are
questions which they
asking
won't
these
answer.
questions which will be the subject of an investigation. Let's be clear, in this country, you're innocent till proven guilty, even though it often seems that that rule of jurisprudence is being overtaken. But I just wonder what...
But you remember...
I wonder what Shehzad Poonawalla has before he comes on my show.
Not any liquor.
He seems on
No
a roll.
liquor.
He seems on a roll because he seems
No
to
liquor.
come with some turbocharged vitamin. Maybe you have Red Bull.
No,
you
I
have
don't.
Red Bull?
I don't have Red Bull. I don't have red wine. I only have doodh, and I have a lot of yoga that I do. But I want to ask one specific question because Jasmine is part of the government infrastructure. 25th of October 2021, 2 show cause notices issued by the Excise Department of Delhi government to Khao Gali Indo Spirits. Please tell me what action you took on them, because the allegation is that Indo Spirits then paid a sum of 1 crore rupees via the agency of Dinesh Arora
So
to you.
essentially, if you are saying it's 1 crore, at
No,
the
no, no,
moment,
this
at
is
the
one
moment, no, no, at the
instance.
moment, I've read the FIR. At the moment, the CBI's primary charge seems to be 1 crore.
No, no,
was
no,
paid.
no, 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 no.
1 minute.
There is 900 crores.
We'll wait and
this
see.
This is one charge, one
As
example.
of now, at the moment, the primary charge seems to be the 1 crore
No, no,
that
no.
they've leveled.
The 144 crores is written in the FIR.
We'll wait and see. The fact is, as I said, you're innocent till proven guilty. I asked Shehzad a question. Does the Aam Aadmi Party get under the skin of the BJP? Does he see Arvind Kejriwal as a challenger for the future? He dismisses it. Jasmine Shah, are you using this battle that you're claiming is Modi versus Kejriwal to get away, deflect from the serious questions that are being asked today? It's not just Shehzad Poonawalla, but these questions, I believe, are part of the interrogation of Mr. Manish Sisodia and others. Is the AAP willing to have a debate on the excise policy rather than making it a political fight between Modi and Kejriwal? Your first challenge should be to ensure that all these charges are responded to, because remember, during India Against Corruption, the AAP would often pronounce people guilty even before they were allowed to prove their innocence. That's what Salman Khurshid, among others, says, that what is being done to you is what you did to others 10 years ago.
Rajdeep, first of all, let's be very clear. We are completely welcoming any kind of an investigation, and this is not today. For the last 7 years, 150 cases, raids have been ordered against all of our ministers. You are aware, even CM Arvind Kejriwal's house has been raided. Not in a single of these cases has there been any conviction. So we have welcomed this raid. What happened? 31 raids happened of CBI because of this excise policy in 31 places. 14 hours, Manish Sisodia's home was raided. But what did they find? Did they find some crores of cash? Did they find some jewelry? Did they find some documents? Not a single piece of incriminating evidence. And that is why the question comes to the mind that today Manish Sisodia, because let's not act as naive. Aam Aadmi Party is never going to run away from anything that we have done. 400 of our files were called by the LG at that time, even when Najib Jung was LG. They investigated, scrutinized every file, not one thing they could find. So we are open to all kinds of investigation, but let's not be naive. Let's understand that why is the finest education minister in the history of India being targeted today? The only reason is because AAP is the kind of support that Aam Aadmi Party is getting in Gujarat. You see the kind of support from all sections of the society. Just a few days back, Arvind Kejriwal announces Make India #1 campaign. People from all over the country are calling in, wanting to be part of this campaign. New York Times, for the first time in the history of India, has said education, government schools in India are doing something good. It's okay. I mean, it's an opposition state, so PM Modi will not accept it. He would want to write an article in New York Times. That is fine. But when New York Times talks about Arvind Kejriwal, he has a problem. So the reality is this. Today, Modi is threatened by Kejriwal, and that is the only reason. That is the only reason. I'll ask this last point, Rajdeep. If they really were serious about corruption, allegations on corruption, I will give you a list of BJP leaders. We talked about them today. Mukul Roy, Suvendu Adhikari, Hemanta Biswa Sarma. All of them are complete. Narayan Rane. All of them are completely tainted opposition leaders. What happens? Overnight, they join BJP, and then all CBI, ED allegations, all raids are stopped, and suddenly ye log doodh ke dhule ho jate hain. So
no,
that is the reality of this country today.
Jasmine, what happens with leaders who switch sides, whether doodh ke dhule ho jate, whether BJP is a cleaning washing machine, cannot be a defense in a court of law against the allegations made. The fact that Manish Sisodia is seen as a fine education minister by the New York Times cannot be seen as a defense in an excise policy scam. The charge which is being made is when Arvind Kejriwal self-certifies qualifies Manish Sisodia as deserving of a Bharat Ratna. None of these can deflect from the charges that are being made. Are you trying to deflect from the fact that you are now being hit on the one issue which you claim is your identity, which is that you are strong against corruption? You've got a health minister in jail and you've got an education minister who could be well on his way to jail.
Rajdeep, if we were hiding or we were trying to deflect, we would have protested the CBI allegation. हमारे लोग धरना कर रहे होते, we would have not allowed CBI to enter. Did we do any of that? We are with open arms, we are welcoming. We are even saying that even the CBI officers, they will not tell the BJP, but they themselves are perplexed. When they visited Mr. Sisodia's house, they were extremely gentle. They were very professional. They know that this is nothing but trying to score a political goal. Please, eventually our confidence comes from our faith in the courts of this country. We have tremendous faith, like 150 cases. Today, this is the 151st case. We are not a party born yesterday. In the last 8 years, 150 cases against Aam Aadmi Party leaders have been filed. Rajdeep, not one of them have any conviction happened. And that is the reality that the people of the country know. Arvind Kejriwal is the target. There is no excise policy scam. There is no scam.
You know, it's Arvind Kejriwal the target. He comes up with Make India #1. Just a minute. On Tuesday, 3 days later, the raid takes place. The fact is, Arvind Kejriwal has been going again and again to Gujarat, which is your Gad, your fortress, and by all accounts, is attracting crowds. Whether that will turn into votes is another matter. The fact is, Shehzad Poonawala, that the LG changes and suddenly it appears that the BJP is gunning for the Aam Aadmi Party on this excise policy. The question therefore arises, at a time when AAP seems to be emerging post-Punjab and now going to Gujarat as a potential threat, I'm not saying challenger, even a threat, you are now targeting Kejriwal through Sisodia and Jain. Is the allegation which the AAP makes that you're misusing the ED and CBI powers?
I'm going to take your last question first.
Yes.
If that is the case, that we are targeting Mr. Jain, here is, may I get up and show you, or will you have, this is the 2019 High Court order.
You've shown me Satyendra Jain's judgment earlier. We are now talking about Manish Sisodia.
You said Jain.
Jain and Sisodia.
Jain and Sisodia. Why should we not talk about Jain? Because he said he has faith in... One second, Rajdeep, let's speak one at a time. Let's speak one at a time. Let's speak one at a time. Please,
one at a time, yes.
He just said that he has faith in courts. He said that. If he has faith in courts, here is the trial court saying, looking at the material on record, it can be said that there is prima facie sufficient incriminating evidence about the involvement of the accused Satyendra Jain, thus cognizance under Section 3 is taken. Here is the High Court saying that he's done Hawalabazi. Here is another High Court order saying that he's a criminal background man. When will they take action on this one? How can there be an investigation if a man is given VVIP perks and made a minister for the last 3 months? Now let me complete. Now he says, he comes out with whataboutery. I asked him specific questions about the liquor scam. Not one was answered about the violations. Not one is being answered that if the policy was so good, why did you go back to the old policy which you called corrupt? And also all of this started after the CBI probe began. The order for the CBI probe came. Till then, they were praising this policy as the best policy in the world. They did not highlight any other problems in this policy.
In India.
So all of this also has come... No, just a minute, Mr. Shah, just a minute. All of this has also come post the AAP victory in Punjab. Post the AAP victory in Punjab and its unbridled ambition to enter Gujarat, has the BJP got nervous over Kejriwal, yes or no? And then we'll go to Ajay Kumar.
No, because let me remind you that Mr. Satyendra Jain's case has been on for quite some time. If they felt that this was all vindictive, they could have gone to court and taken relief from the courts. Secondly, first they say that it is before Punjab elections we are being targeted. Then they say this is before Himachal elections we are being targeted. Now they say we're before Gujarat elections. But is the court giving orders based on that? And if all of this FIR is fake, there's no substance in this FIR, they should go to court tomorrow morning and get it quashed. Why don't they go to court and get it quashed?
Jasmine, quickly respond.
Shehzad, the simple answer to Shehzad's question, in the case against Mr. Satyendra Jain, this is a case dating 2013-14. For 7 years, CBI has done a raid. CBI has said we have no evidence to proceed further. Ab aap ED ko bhejte ho.
No. Where has the CBI said this? Where has the CBI said this? I challenge Jasmine. He's lying. He's lying on your platform. Where has it said?
To secure any conviction. Do you have the?
Where has the CBI said this?
Or the house of Suvendu Adhikari?
Jasmine, where has the CBI said there's no evidence against him?
Okay.
No. In the interest of fairness, where has the CBI said this? Please let me quote the source.
In scams.
You want to quote the source where you say the CBI has found no evidence?
Please quote the official source.
No. These are official.
Show the source. No. There is no such thing.
Okay.
Officially,
CBI has denied such rumors. The CBI said the case is on the cognizance of the
Okay, just a minute. Just a minute. Let's, this ability to shout over each other can be
But has the
avoided.
CBI said
Can
this?
be avoided. One
Has the
minute.
CBI
Now,
said this?
Ajoy Kumar.
Has the CBI said this?
1 minute. Ajoy Kumar, I want to ask you this. The Congress is staying quiet even on this discussion, and you seem to be staying quiet or actually encouraging in a way the BJP to go after the AAP on the Delhi excise policy scam. Is this because the Congress also in some way or the other fears a resurgent Kejriwal, or you want to take revenge on Mr. Kejriwal for either the manner in which he has stayed silent when your leaders are charged with corruption, or the fact that he was the one in the India Against Corruption who got after congressmen? What is it? Why is it that the Congress is so silent at the moment or targeting up?
No. First question I think is, you keeping me silent in the TV show should not be interpreted as I was keeping quiet. You're not giving me a chance to speak. So Rajdeep, touche on that. Second issue is, you said it's a pipe dream, and I'm seriously, I was thinking somebody in the headlines, India Today was also having a pipe dream. The headline says is AAP a contender, and I want to discuss with that later. But I never thought I'll see a day when I would have some points to agree with Shehzada and disagree with significantly with Jasmine. Jasmine definitely a decent chap, but on a couple of things which is very blatant in this issue. So first question is, look at how Aam Aadmi Party is speaking. Mr. Kejriwal says Bharat Ratna, the greatest minister of India in education. I mean, what has happened? I mean, where does this arrogance come from? I mean, in terms of education, because you ran a state government schools, which you keep claiming in a state of Delhi, and you may have been, I'm saying that I've not seen it so well, so I cannot make a comment. But there are people who have struggled for decades, doing revolutionary changes across in education and RTI, and suddenly Bharat Ratna for Mr. Manish Sisodia, Pehle Padma Bhushan said they were not happy. Coming to the issues which every government has done, whether it is us reducing poverty, RTI, Manrega, every government's job is that. But the liquor policy, and which I think AAP has to understand very clearly is, if it was good, why did you take it back? First question, fundamental issue. Second issue is that the Chief Secretary's notes have raised a lot of questions. Third question is, I've seen them in Uttarakhand, I've seen them everywhere. The amount of money you're spending, I mean, if it's where is this? And if they came to change politics, and they're giving solid run for BJP in terms of spend, okay? They may deny it, they might say it. I've seen it across the...
No, you're claiming that... No, 1 minute. Mr. Ajoy Kumar... No, you need to be more specific. You are charging the AAP with using disproportionate funds that are not accounted for. Is that your charge?
So one sec. So let me put it this way. You have a 19 crore advertisement for a scholarship scheme where you have totally given 2 guys scholarship. That's what's in the public domain. Needs to be verified. So 19 crores spent. The advertising budget of Delhi government, if I remember, the numbers are around 457 crores now. I mean, it's gone from 20 crores, 60 crores. So it's around 457 crores is what the data I have. Jasmine can verify that. But my question is very simple. You might say you are, fighting your unique. I keep looking at Aam Aadmi Party and saying, okay, they wanted to bring a different kind of politics. Where are they on ideology, and where are they on the fundamental issues with distinguished political party? You might say I run schools well, and that's debatable and all that, etc., etc. Bilkis Bano, on every issue in this country, whether it was bulldozing, which is illegal, whether it was Bilkis Bano, which is illegal, and so I don't know why AAP and BJP are fighting, for the simple reason being there is so much of similarity in their thought process.
No, are you saying, without beating around the bush, are you saying that AAP is a B team of BJP? Are you saying that you feel threatened by AAP? Be clear now. Let's be clear.
No, my question is, the India Against Corruption, public domain, lot of funding from the RSS, things went on, whatever be the reason, that's a different issue. The fact is, there is a very thin line distinguishing them in ideology. I'm telling you, look, you might be as, what you call, rabid as the Bharatiya Janata Party to walk away from Bilkis Bano. But the fact of life is, whether it's bulldozing people, whether it's Bilkis Bano, whether it is attack on, and the individual tribe, totally silent. So my question again is, you have a party which claiming to be doing a lot of, stuff. I just want to bring it to justice.
You don't come to the direct question. Ajoy Kumar, what is your direct question? You've said 4 times. What is your direct question? Quickly.
My direct question is a couple of things. If the liquor policy was good, why do you take it back? First question. No need of taking it back. So the question is, because obviously they knew that he's got his report.
Second question, sir.
There is the ideology, What is your stand on all these issues?
You made your point. Sir, you're now repeating yourself. With due regard, you're now repeating yourself. Jasmine Shah, you want to respond to that. The fact is that, what does the AAP stand for? If you are now being accused of corruption, does the entire edifice of AAP come down? Because on other policies, according to Ajoy Kumar, you are no different to the BJP. You are also, in a way, competing, according to the Congress, he didn't say it, these are my words, for the same Hindu vote bank. And therefore, why should the Congress come out and stand up for you when you don't stand up for anyone else?
Rajdeep, that is a question you are asking. We have never asked for Congress's support. If its conscience permits itself to stand on the buy side when gross injustice is being done, and this is not a new Congress, this is what Congress has been doing for the last 7 years in Delhi. Every time the elected government, I'm not saying Aam Aadmi Party, the elected government of Delhi was being targeted, powers were being taken away, LG was being strengthened and the elected government's powers were being taken away, Congress was cheerleading. So we don't expect them to stand by what is good constitution and what should happen in a democracy. Having said that, at the end of the day, I think Ajoy, who's a good friend, he asked a very pertinent question. What is our vision? We have a vision, we have an ideology for India. And that was pronounced by Mr. Arvind Kejriwal 3 days before this raid happened, and that is what perturbed Mr. Modi so much. We said that we would like to see in the next 25 years India becoming a developed nation. And what is our definition of a developed nation? Free and quality education for all, free and quality healthcare for all, women's safety and dignity, equal pay for farmers, and jobs for all the youth. We have pronounced this, and we are saying that we are doing this in Delhi. 75 years, BJP and Congress have been ruling in tens of states.
No, are you ready?
You say one state, Rajdeep.
No, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready while you say all this? Are you ready while you say all this to answer every question that has been raised with regard to your excise policy? Are you ready to come out in the public and have an open debate on each and every aspect of the excise policy, of allegations of middlemen, of allegations of cartelization? Those are specific allegations now that are being made.
No, Rajdeep, there are many specific allegations. We are willing to answer. And by the way, let me put this on record. Each and every of these questions, including what Mr. Ajoy and Shehzad said, that why was the policy rolled back, has been comprehensively answered. There's a press conference by the Deputy CM on the day the policy was reversed, saying why we wanted to prevent a prohibition-like scenario in Delhi, and therefore as a temporary measure, we are introducing the old policy. But at the same time, let's not use this platform only to make something out of nothing. The reality is there is a liquor scam happening in Gujarat. Hundreds of people are dying. Where is this spurious liquor coming from? For 27 years, Gujarat has been under prohibition, but 10,000 crores of illicit liquor is being sold. Can we ask one question to the BJP gentleman here? Can we ask why are Suvendu Adhikari, Hemant Biswa Sharma not
This is the third time you've asked that question. The fact is, Mr. Poonawalla, the charge that, while all this is playing out, the question is convictions are extremely low, but the process is the punishment. It appears that the CBI is first pronouncing someone guilty, and so is the BJP, and then we are going to get what exactly comes out in the investigation. Normally, you have a case and then you go for the individuals. And we are seeing this in case after case, which is why, for example, the ED has less than 1% conviction. With whether it's tomorrow Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, or indeed Manish Sisodia, is the BJP claiming that only opposition leaders are to be charged with ED and CBI, while the BJP is doodh ka dhula hua? This is the charge repeatedly made by opposition, whether it's Ajoy Kumar or Jasmine Shah.
Rajdeep, you are far too intelligent a person to confuse ED's conviction rate with the CBI's, which is at 70%. Correct? Secondly, he said the CBI has filed a closure in Satyendra Jain case. This is the official statement of the CBI. Rajdeep, please look here. I'm showing you the report. Here is the report. This man is from the Delhi government. He comes and lies on your platform. Imagine what else he's lying about, including the answers to the questions which he's not given. By the way, it's 25,93,800 seconds of not answering specific questions on the liquor policy. They have lied about when they reversed this policy. It was only after the CBI probe started that they went ahead and reversed this policy and went to the old one. But let me come back to larger questions. Please, what date is that? No, read the date of that. Jasmine, please give me 5 minutes to expose it completely. What date is that? What date is that and what publication is that? What date and publication is that? Is that the official CBI press release? Is that the CBI official press release?
You have been caught.
It is not the official, it is a news report he's quoting. The CBI official press release said there is no closure. Rajdeep, you know it, your channel ran this story. You should fact check him. Your channel does a lot of fact checks. No, anyways.
The fact is...
There is no closure in CBI and Satyendra Jain case.
There is no closure.
Now let me come to the point.
There is no closure. However,
there is no closure.
However,
is he lying? Is he lying on this?
No, 1 minute.
Is he lying on this? Yes or no?
Mr. Shehzad Poonawalla, is this a battle of perception? You
now
want to create a perception that the Aam Aadmi Party is somehow involved in corruption, while in no BJP-ruled state will the CBI or the ED go and investigate. How are you going to dismiss this perception?
I will come to that also. The perception takes place when I show you official court orders and you don't tell Jasmine that these are court orders after which you have not taken the resignation of Satyendra Jain, and you put the perception that the ED is hounding him. The perception develops when he lies that there's a closure report of CBI. You know there's no closure report and you don't fact check him. That's when the perception comes. But that's not the point.
No, the perception comes because just a minute, sir. Just the perception comes because in no. Just a minute. The perception comes, Mr. Poonawalla, because in no BJP-ruled state at the moment does the CBI or the ED seem active. You cannot tell me, it really in a way stretches my incredulity to believe that BJP governments are not involved in any form of corruption, only opposition-ruled states are. I want a clear final answer to it.
Yes. Here is ED raiding a BJP leader in Surat, 2.7 crores. Here is income tax raid on B.S. Yedurappa's son. All news reports. If your channel doesn't like to report... 1 second, Rajdeep. Now let me have the say. Your channel should report every time the agency acts on a BJP leader as much as it does when it acts on a Congress or a AAP leader. Point number 1. Point number 2, I have cited court orders. Point number 3, Congress and Aam Aadmi Party are fighting. They are the twin sisters and twin towers of corruption. They both represent the same philosophy, and the Congress was the first one to hug up and form an alliance with them. And today Mr. Ajoy is saying it's a B team of the BJP. Matlab, Ajoy, kitne chuhe kaakar aap Congress mein gaye?
Okay. The fact is that was 2013, 2014. Much has changed. Much water has flown under the bridge. Very interestingly, Shehzad Poonawalla was once in the Congress, is now in the AAP. Ajoy Kumar was once in the AAP, is now back in the Congress.
I have made the only right choice, he's made the wrong one.
Tried to do a lot of notorious. So Shehzad Poonawalla, one sec. Shehzad Poonawalla preaching on honesty is worse than blasphemy. Honestly speaking, I mean, if
I can imagine your fascination with blasphemy.
Each other's A team, we are the A team of the people of this country.
Okay, you are the A team of the people of the country who is...
You wanted to get personal, that's why I'm getting personal. The first question.
Yeah, when he says the A team, it's the advertising team. The only thing that they stand for with A is advertising.
100 people die in Gujarat due to liquor, you are silent.
Why don't you and Jasmine decide of all the allegations in all states of country and go file cases if you think
okay, guys, that's it. That's it.
Our hundreds of people dying in the...
Now you've seen how they've united.
Gentlemen, that's it.
United? Mr. Poonawalla, the question is, look, Rajdeep, I just want to give a small closing comment. The question again is, for Jasmine and everybody else, the important issue is whether it's Congress or AAP or anybody else. In this fight of the Republic or whatever you want to call, the way this Bharatiya Janata Party is destroying institutions, Aam Aadmi Party seems to be tilting on the edge of the BJP on a lot of issues. And
you
that's what I'm saying.
The action on Satyendra Jain, Delhi Congress came out with a statement saying
that's it.
Right to life.
What is
my time is up. My time is up. My time is up on the discussion. We've gone well over it. Unfortunately, it appears that as we enter these politically turbulent times, the temperature rises both in the studio and outside. Appreciate my guests joining us. At the end of the day, we want to see prosecution of the guilty. But the process cannot become the punishment. There must be convictions. These battles cannot be fought on perception and optics. They must be fought on the reality and the facts as they exist if anti-corruption is truly the basis of these CBI raids. Whether the AAP can emerge as a challenger to the BJP in the future, who knows? For now, it appears still a long road ahead for the Aam Aadmi Party. Let's turn from there to our next story. A massive plot to bleed India has been unraveled because Russia claims to have detained an ISIS terrorist who was allegedly planning an attack in India in response to an insult to the Prophet by suspended BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma. What's the story? Take a look.
After nationwide protest, after the hounding and silencing of voices, and after murders and beheadings. The backlash against Nupur Sharma's prophet remark has reached a terrifying new height. Name Azamao Mashahont. Age 30. Group ISIS. Mission terror attacks in India. Reason revenge for prophet comment. Meet this ISIS suicide bomber, intercepted and detained in Russia just before he departed for India to carry out his first terror strike, a human bomb attack on Indian soil as revenge for Nupur Sharma's prophet comments.
In 2022, I flew to Russia from where I was supposed to leave for India. In India, they had to meet me and give all the necessary things to commit a terrorist attack on the orders of the Islamic State for insulting the Prophet Muhammad.
Russia says that this man was all set to target an Indian political leader. But what do we know about this terrorist? Very little apart from what the Russian Federal Security Service has said, which is that the terrorist is native of a Central Asian country. But most startlingly, in a video released by the Russian government, the terrorist can be heard admitting that he was supposed to take revenge in India for insulting the Prophet.
I became a member of ISIS and was being prepared in Turkey. I flew to Russia from where I was flown to India. In India, there was a meeting scheduled during which I was to receive everything to commit an attack.
The accused.
Okay, so from that troubling story, let's turn to what's happening in Jammu and Kashmir, where today the regional parties of the valley, the PDP and the National Conference, claimed that the BJP or the Election Commission of India is being guided by the BJP over new voting rights for those living and working in Jammu and Kashmir. The regional parties claim that the Election Commission plans to allow non-locals and army men to vote in the future in Jammu and Kashmir, which could change the demographics composition of an election in the state. The all-party meeting that took place today warned the centre that they would go to the court against any changes in Jammu and Kashmir's electoral rolls. It's a question I posed a short while ago to the Jammu and Kashmir former Chief Minister Omar Abdullah. Listen in. So in this latest conflict point in Jammu and Kashmir, joining me now is Jammu and Kashmir National Conference leader, former Chief Minister Omar Abdullah joins me. Appreciate your joining us, Omar Abdullah. This latest, in a way, tug of war between the centre and the state, with the Election Commission caught in the middle, suggests that you in Jammu and Kashmir do not trust the Election Commission when it insists that we are not bringing in non-locals into the voter list. But you seem convinced that there is an attempt being made to change the demography of Jammu and Kashmir before any future election is held.
Well, we are going purely by what the State Election Commission has said, where they have said that they expect 25 lakh new voters to be registered, and they are giving voter rights to everybody who is ordinarily resident in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, this doesn't mean they are state subjects. It doesn't even mean the new domicile. They are saying that it is ordinarily resident, leaving the term extremely vague. What is ordinarily resident? Do you have to at least be occupying a house, a property here? Does it mean you could be living under a flyover and claim the right to vote? What of the hundreds of thousands of security forces that are deployed in Jammu and Kashmir? Will they be treated as ordinary residents? Will they and their families be given votes? See, these are things that are not being clarified. And where did this 25 lakh number come from? Because registration hasn't started yet. So on what basis have they assumed that they will be bringing in 25 lakh new voters, unless it is something that's already been thought about and planned?
The election commission says, though, Omar Abdullah, is that you are seeing conspiracies where none exist. They claim that these new electoral rolls are being done based on a lot of young voters coming in. That it doesn't mean that you are encouraging non-locals to enter the Kashmir Valley ahead of whenever elections take place there.
But
that the
again,
Kashmir
I
parties have
point.
not gone through the fine print before you've already accused in a way the EC of a conspiracy.
We went purely by what the State Election Commission is telling us. They've given a number of 25 lakhs. Now, I am willing to come forward to discuss these younger voters. Absolutely, there will be new voters that will be added to the electoral rolls. But let's not forget, it's hardly been 2 or 3 years since we had the block development elections and the district development council elections. Are you telling me between that election and this election, you're adding 25 lakh new young voters to the electoral rolls? I refuse to believe that our population has grown suddenly, that in less than 3 years, 25 lakh youngsters are going to be registered as new voters.
This 25 lakh figure, of course, will remain contentious until there is a complete clarification on that. But in the meantime, that term that you mentioned, ordinary resident, now that could be in any other part of the country. If I'm ordinary resident, I can vote in that part of the country. If tomorrow the Election Commission says and clarifies that the armed forces posted in Jammu and Kashmir can register as voters and participate in a way in the assembly polls, you will object to that presumably, because you seem to see that as a conspiracy.
Because, no, Rajdeep, I'm sorry, you cannot compare Jammu and Kashmir to other parts of the country. Jammu and Kashmir, the entire Jammu and Kashmir is under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. We are a disturbed area. You can't treat us like a peace station. We have more than 700,000 security forces deployed here because this is an unsafe place, because the Armed Forces Special Powers Act applies here, because this is a disturbed area. You can't compare us to another cantonment town and say that because army can vote here, they can vote there. There the numbers will be in the thousands or maximum 10,000. Here we're talking about lakhs. You're talking about 600,000, 700,000 troops over and above the 25 lakh that the Election Commission talked about. So yes, this will be hugely problematic. Please clarify. Are the armed forces entitled to vote in a disturbed area? Or does the presence of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, does the application of the Disturbed Areas Act to Jammu and Kashmir, does it preclude the armed forces and the security forces from voting here? These are things the Election Commission needs to clarify, because otherwise, you can't blame us for seeing a conspiracy, because we've been lied to for all these years. Don't forget.
But all these years.
One sec.
Yes.
Let me finish. No lesser person than the then occupant of Raj Bhavan lied to the people in the run-up to August 2019 to say that no changes were in the offing, there would be no change to the status of Jammu and Kashmir, and that everything would remain as it was. We shouldn't believe the rumors. And we know what happened on the 5th of August. So please don't tell me that we are seeing conspiracies where none exist, because we have been lied to time and again, and it is very difficult to trust what we hear now.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned August 5th, 2019, because it seems from that moment till today, the trust deficit between Delhi and Srinagar has only widened. Today, you seem to express the concerns that the Election Commission's moves will open the floodgates and turn locals into an electoral minority. Is this simply, at the end of the day, about this gaping trust deficit that post-August 15, August 5, 2019, and the effective abrogation of Article 370, Srinagar and Delhi are on a collision course, and there is a widening trust deficit? That's what it boils down to.
Well, I won't use the word collision course, because we're not looking for a fight with New Delhi. We are trying. Every time we are asked to step up, we step up to reduce this trust deficit, whether it is in meetings with the central government, or more recently when the Lieutenant Governor suddenly, with hardly a couple of hours' notice, decided to invite political parties over a cup of tea to discuss the Amarnath Yatra. We went as responsible political parties and participated in it. But you will excuse us if we feel that not enough is being done to open channels of communication and to address trust deficits. Look, you can't put trucks outside our house and lock us in our homes one day and then expect us to be completely sort of free from suspicion and fear the very next day. Jammu and Kashmir has been treated badly. Jammu and Kashmir has been lied to. Jammu and Kashmir has been misled. And yes, there is a trust deficit, and that trust deficit needs to be addressed. I mean,
the concerns that many will have is that while this trust deficit, as you call it, exists, as we've seen, non-locals are have been targeted by terror groups in recent times, and that's the fear, that while political parties also talk about locals versus non-locals, that the elections must be limited to locals, look what's happening on the ground. Non-locals are becoming increasingly susceptible, along with Kashmiri Pandits, to targeted killings. Now, surely that is where the regional parties of the Kashmir Valley also need to stand up to be counted.
You know, Rajdeep, I wasn't going to say this because this was a conversation between the National Conference president and the Lieutenant Governor. But I think this is an appropriate time to say it. You know, 4 days ago, when a Kashmiri Pandit man was shot and killed in Shupaiya and his brother was injured, that very same day, my father picked up the phone and spoke to the Lieutenant Governor and said, look, please call us all for a meeting. This is not just your fight. This is our common fight. We don't want to see minorities and outsiders targeted like this. Let's not give this impression that this is the government versus everybody. We want to come there and add our voice to yours. Please call us so that all of us can stand together with you and make this appeal that non-locals should not be targeted. Non-locals should not be shot and killed this way. And we want to tell everybody that this is our common fight. It's not a fight of the government versus the militants. We all want to put our voice together with yours to put an end to these killings. That day and this day, nothing has happened. That offer that was made was not taken up, and that offer was made from our side. It wasn't as if somebody called us and said, do this. It was suo moto, my father's. He said that we have a responsibility as being part of the majority community to make the minority communities feel safe. So he reached out to the Lieutenant Governor and offered this meeting, and nothing was done about it. So again, yes, if there is a trust deficit, if there is a breakdown in communication, we are not solely responsible for it.
No, you want them to feel safe. You want non-locals to feel safe. You don't want this majority-minority gap to widen in the valley. And yet, when it comes to electoral rolls, you've already raised a red flag, saying you fear that the valley will be overwhelmed. My point again is, this is surely a time for healing touch at various levels. And this is a time for communication, not for each side throwing red flags at each other.
We have every right to ask questions, Rajdeep. We didn't ask the Election Commission to come forward with this statement. They came of their own accord and bandied about this 25 lakh number. And you yourself said, yes, this 25 lakh number needs to be talked about. So what is wrong when we ask questions about it? We have a right to ask, where did they get this 25 lakh number from? What will happen to the hundreds of thousands of security forces deployed here? Will the presence of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act preclude them from voting? These are legitimate questions, and they're all linked to what happened on 5th August 2019. Look, not so long ago, before the Supreme Court broke for the summer vacation, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court said that as soon as the summer break is over, he will constitute the bench to begin hearings on what happened on the 5th August 2019. That summer break ended a long time ago. Where is that bench?
Let me therefore ask you a final question. Given what you're saying is this gaping trust deficit, will you, your party and other valley-based parties in particular participate in the assembly elections that are held as and when they are held under the revised electoral rolls, yes or no?
Well, I have always said that as far I can only speak for my party. I will not speak for any of the other participants in today's meeting or for any other party in Jammu and Kashmir. I would not support National Conference staying out of the electoral arena. I believe that whatever we can achieve through participating in these elections, but we will not stop asking questions about the doubts that we have and the fears that people have with regard to what is being projected or proposed.
Okay. On that note, Omar Abdullah, thank you very much for joining me this evening. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
No sign then of the trust deficit reducing between Delhi and Srinagar. When we return, we are turning to our ground report of the day. Flood fury across large parts of India. We'll tell you the latest. You're joining the news today. News without the noise.
Kinmen Island. This is Taiwan's most threatened outpost, just 10 kilometers away from mainland China. If China made the Great Wall, Taiwan made a series of such tunnels right from 1949 onwards. Join me, Gaurav Sawant, as I report live and exclusive from Ground Zero, Taiwan, only on India Today.
Welcome back. Let's end tonight with tonight's ground report, the Get Real India story of the day, because large parts of the country are reeling under floods, from coastal regions of Odisha to the hilly areas of Himachal Pradesh to the Gangetic plains of Uttar Pradesh. Floods have wreaked havoc. Tonight's final report comes from the flooded areas. While I say good night tonight, stay well, stay safe. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
The Gangetic plains of Uttar Pradesh are facing flood fury. Ganga is in spate. As the water levels continues to rise, the holy cities of Prayagraj and Varanasi are badly hit. In Prayagraj, water has started entering residential areas. Many temples in the city are completely submerged.
सब चीज में दिक्कत है, न खाने की न कोई क्या देखो का है माँ कुछ है ये तो नहीं ना का खावा जाए यहाँ हाय कुछ तो नहीं है सब बर्तन नहीं है इसमें सब पानी है और का है.
In Prayagraj and Varanasi, cremation grounds and ghats are flooded. People are forced to perform the last rites on roads.
The situation has turned adverse in Varanasi, with cremation taking place around the narrow lanes of Varanasi. I'm here near the Harishchandra Ghat, which is completely collapsed in the floodwater of River Ganga, and currently people out here from various districts are pressed to do cremation of their near ones, of their family members out here in these narrow lanes.
अब समस्या ये है कि सारा पानी भरा हुआ, कहीं जगह नहीं है, कहाँ जलाएं? तो अब जहाँ जगह मिल रही है गली में कूचे में वो दाह संस्कार किया जा रहा है.
हाँ यही रास्ता ही है तो बाधित होगा ही, स्वाभाविक सी बात है. यही रास्ता है, ये इतनी जगह गली पतली गली है, स्वाभाविक से दिक्कतें आएंगी. बाधित हो ही रहे हैं.
The Namo Ghat, Manikarnika Ghat and Harishchandra Ghat of Varanasi are partially submerged. Movement of boats is completely stopped. From coastal regions of Odisha to hilly regions of Himachal, entire country is facing massive destruction due to heavy rainfall and floods. Himachal Pradesh has reported the death of 27 people due to rains and flash floods over the last few days. The state is not out of the woods yet. The Met Department warns the hill state could get more rains later this week. With Samarth Srivastav, Bureau Report, India Today.
Despite not having any big connections within Bollywood and the obvious language barrier, Jacqueline Fernandez has managed to make her mark in the Indian film industry. The Bahraini Sri Lankan actress was born on August 11, 1985 in Bahrain and comes from a multi-ethnic family. After studying mass communication in Australia, Jacqueline started to work as a presenter in Sri Lanka while modelling on the side.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Trillium High Miss Sri Lanka Universe for 2006. Please put your hands together for Miss Jacqueline Fernandez.
Jacqueline made heads turn in 2006 when she won the Miss Sri Lanka pageant.
Congrats, Jacqueline!
On a modelling assignment in India in 2009, Jacqueline auditioned successfully for a role in Sujoy Ghosh's fantasy drama Aladdin alongside Amitabh Bachchan and Ritesh Deshmukh. Her Bollywood debut might have been a box office failure, but the actor left a mark with her performance. She then bagged her second film again opposite Ritesh Deshmukh in Jaane Kahan Se Aayi Hai, where she played the role of a creature from Venus. Her first two films might have tanked at the box office, but Jackie's third film, Murder 2, was a commercial success. Post Murder 2, Jackie was part of an ensemble cast in Houseful 2, which went on to become one of the biggest hits of that year. However, the biggest turning point in her career came in 2014, when she starred in Sajid Nadiadwala's directorial debut, Kick. She was named Woman of the Year by PETA India in 2014 for advocating the welfare of animals. Entertainment Bureau, India Today.
Taiwanese military holding war exercises at the borders to counter the Chinese intimidation. Taipei stepping up internal security and defense in case of an all-out war. These special drills are being carried out
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Everyone's busy finding what's trending. You're busy finding out why. India Today, for those who research before reacting. Download the India Today app now.
By HDFC Bank Parivartan, a step towards sustainable progress. In association with Hetic Fittings, make your furniture work beautifully. Bharti AXA Life Insurance, do the smart thing. ऑफर पे ऑफर सिर्फ कल्याण ज्वेलर्स में. LIC, हर पल आपके साथ.
A semiconductor or a chip, perhaps the most potent weapon in Taiwan's armory. More potent than the F-16 Vipers and the Patriot. 90% are manufactured here in Taiwan. If tensions with China increase, global economy may just be adversely impacted. It's time to act now, or it may just be too late. Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you from Taiwan's capital, Taipei. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Today on this broadcast, we will take you inside Taiwan's Brahmastra. And no, we are not talking about the F-16 Vipers or the Patriot missile systems. We are not talking about the Apaches, the Chinooks and the Black Hawks either. We are talking about Taiwan's semiconductor chip manufacturing units. I had the opportunity to visit one of the semiconductor manufacturing units that makes Taiwan one of the world leaders in the manufacture of this small chip used in everything from a mobile to a missile. Taiwan takes great pride in the fact that almost 90% of semiconductors or the super chips across the world have some contribution from Taiwan. Taiwan is the world leader in the manufacture of semiconductors. And this is a process that actually started more than 3 decades ago in this country. Taiwan also considers this to be their Brahmastra, their biggest weapon. Because if there is any blockade of the Taiwan Strait, or if there is any conflict, then the world will have an immense shortage of these semiconductors that are used in everything from a mobile to a missile, from automobiles to aircraft, from televisions to refrigerators. I bring you this report from one of those semiconductor manufacturing and innovation centers in Taiwan. A semiconductor or a chip, perhaps the most potent weapon in Taiwan's armory, more potent than the F-16 Vipers and the Patriot. And on this show, we will tell you how sand and rock, SiO2, are converted into polysilicon rocks and then a silicon ingot, how bare silicon wafers are made out of this, and how this is then converted into this chip or IC that's used perhaps in most devices in your house, from a mobile phone to a television set to a refrigerator or the aircraft you fly in. By some accounts, majority of such products come from Taiwan.
Gaurav Sawant in one of the most secretive manufacturing plants in the world. The center of technology which makes Taiwan one of the biggest soft powers in the world. This is semiconductor manufacturing unit of Micronix International at the Hsinchu Science Park, 80 kilometers from Taipei in Taiwan. Taiwan manufactures over 90% of the most advanced varieties of semiconductor chips in the world.
We know this is a high tech, and which requires not only the manpower, the mind, the brain, as well as the infrastructure. So, for example, providing a stable supply of electrical powers, water supply, and everything else. Okay. Other than that, I think the entire supply chain, so for example, the wafer production, the testing, the assembly. So all the supply chain, there's a lot of coherence, cooperation in the industry. So in Taiwan, I think it provides a very provident environment to develop all this.
More than 150,000 are employed at this plant. Just 10 miles from Taiwan Strait, where Chinese warships have their guns pointed towards the small island nation. While on the surface everything is calm, there is real fear